to make more display teams. Four of them going home off swap the swap with triplane, the two Fokker DR1s and the SE5A. We're going to recover the B2C, as you can see, and requested to first deliveries of Mark 1 Blenheims were to number 114 Squadron at RAF Witten near Huntingdon in March 1937. They replaced the Hawker Hind, one of the light bombers in the famous series of Hawker biplane fighters that we were to have seen represented, or Hawker biplanes I should say, not just fighters, of the 1930s. That we were to have seen represented by two of the fighters of that line, the Nimrod and the Fury, in today's display, but can't due to the gusting wind. 186 miles an hour, that of the Blenheim was 260 miles an hour. And with that sort of performance, the RAF saw potential in the Blenheim for a new long-range fighter. The workshops of the Southern Railway in Ashford designed a ventral gun pack of 4.303-inch Browning machine guns to augment the Blenheim's existing armament, and number 25 Squadron was the first to bring the Blenheim fighter into service in December 1938. The following year, production switched to the long-nosed Mark IV with a larger navigator station. It too saw service as a fighter and bomber, amongst other roles. When Britain declared war against Germany on the 3rd of September 1939, there were more Blenheims in RAF service, nearly 1,100 of them, than any other single aircraft type. And the earliest RAF operational actions of World War II all involved Blenheims. It was a number 139 Squadron aircraft from Witten, being flown on a reconnaissance sortie that became the first British aircraft to overfly Germany following the start of the war. And the following day, the 4th of September 1939, aircraft from numbers 107 and 110 squadrons at RAF Wattisham in Suffolk made Bomber Command's first raid of hostilities. They attacked the German fleet in port at Wilhelmshaven. Their losses, however, were very severe. And that was because what had been a fast aeroplane by the standards of 2 or 3 years earlier was by now vulnerable to enemy fighters. But nonetheless, the Blenheim crews continued to do tremendous work in all of this aircraft's roles and in all of the theatres in which they operated. As far as the Battle of Britain was concerned, the Blenheim 1F fighter variant was very significant in terms of being one of the first radar-equipped night fighters to see service with fighter command. Some of them were fitted with the Mark III AI airborne intercept radar, and they began achieving successes. The first of them on the 2nd and 3rd of July 1940, shooting down a Dornier Doe 17 of the Luftwaffe off Selsey Bill. As the Blenheim passes by there, we're going to be getting the Seafire 3 and the Corsair airborne. 1941, Blenheims were flying in many theatres in Northern Europe, the Mediterranean, the Middle East and the Far East. It was that year that the boss of number 105 Squadron, Wing Commander Huey Edwards, was awarded the Victoria Cross for his gallantry during a daylight raid against the German city of Bremen on the 4th of July 1941. This one was originally built by Fairchild in Canada as a Bolingbroke, the Canadian version of the Blenheim. It was in service with the Royal Canadian Air Force for some years, passed through various private hands before it ended up with the then British Aerial Museum at Duxford. They'd already restored one Blenheim, which unfortunately was lost in an accident. This one was restored to fly. It made its maiden flight in 1993. Then it was a long-nose Mark IV. It appeared in various different guises. So it suffered a landing accident here in 2003. The decision was then taken to restore it as a Mark I Blenheim using a nose section that had been converted, incredibly, into a post-war electric bubble car. It was a painstaking rebuild and reconfiguration effort by the Aircraft Restoration Company, assisted by the Blenheim volunteer team and indeed donations from the Blenheim Society. And the first flight was by John Romain on the 20th of November 19... Notably, although it is a reliable power plant, it can be prone to what's known as a rich cut if the throttle is opened too abruptly from low RPM, for example, in the event of a go-around. The aircraft beautifully handled as ever there by John Romain, who just looks so at home at the controls of the Aircraft Restoration Company's Blenheim. But now we come into our maritime segment of the display today, and with a